tell you what, it was a wonderful experience to find the limits of my vehicle in the mud and the slipperiness of the farm roads, and to kind of understand how my car works. And I just thought, in that process, I thought our Christian life is a little bit like that. It's really only in real life, when we are tested in real life, living real life, when it gets a little bit slippery and a little bit slidey and a lot muddy and it's a bit messy, that we really do find the limits in our life. And when I say that, I mean the limits of our love, the limits of our faith, the limits of our patience, the limits of our grace. And we start to find that actually we do have limits around those aspects of those parts of our Christian walk, of our walk with Jesus. And really those limits become the growth points that we want to step into. So when we come across a limit of grace in our lives, actually that's the limit that we want to, Lord, actually there's a limit here. I want to grow past this. I want to grow through this limit now. I want to get to know how to press through that limiting grace factor in my life so that I can live in more of your grace, for example, or more patience, or more love, or more faith, or more generosity, or whatever that aspect of God's character might be that we're wanting to be living more in. And I learned on holiday that only happens when it gets tested. It only happens when you go through difficulty. And really what happened was on holiday, I've started to learn with confidence the limits of my vehicle. And so eventually, by the end of the holiday, I was living actually confidently and boldly understanding my limits. I wasn't getting stuck. I wasn't getting bogged down with mud. Because I kind of understood what buttons were for when and how things worked and what would be best for which situation, purely because I understood the limits of my vehicle. And I think if in 2024 we can start to see the tough times that we go through, or the challenging times that we go through, or the muddy times that we go through, or the slippery times that we go through, to put it in that language, not as something that is negative, but actually rather as something that is testing our limits, I think we will begin to grow more and more. Because it's only when we find our limits that we can begin to push past our limits. And I want to encourage us that in Christ, that in Jesus, all of us have limits. And this is a year to push past our limits, to push past the boundaries that we've been so comfortable with in the past, and to live beyond that boundary, to beyond that limit. What about take the area of patience, for example. Everybody's fine, everybody's to a point, and then eventually you lose patience. But what would happen if we were to take that moment and say, actually, no, Lord, I want to live past that boundary of patience and begin to press further than that. And we took that into every area of our lives. How much more would we grow and become more like Jesus? Let's be people that see these moments that we live through, these kind of moments which you think are challenges, these scary moments sometimes, not as from the devil always, but actually as challenges from God, so that we can learn to know our limits and press past them and become bold and confident in areas that are beyond what we've ever gone before. I hope this blesses you, and I hope this encourages you, and have a brilliant day.